Hi friends, it's Mrs. Johnson. I'm excited to share a story with you today. I sure miss being in your classroom with you. I hope everybody's doing really well. I'm going to share a story from one of my favorite books, Frog and Toad Are Friends. Frog and Toad have been some of my favorite characters for a really long time. This story is called A Lost Button. We're going to find out what Frog and Toad do about a lost button. Toad and Frog went for a long walk. They walked across a large meadow. They walked to the woods, and they walked along the river. At last they went back home, to Toad's house. "Oh, drat," said Toad. Not only do my feet hurt, but I have lost a button on my jacket." Wonder where that button went. "Don't worry," said Frog. Frog does that a lot because Frog and Toad are good friends. "We will go back to all the places where we walked. We will soon find your button." They walked back to the large meadow. They began to look for the button in the tall grass. "Here is your button," said Frog. "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button is black. My button was white." Toad put the black button in his pocket. Let's see if they find it. A sparrow flew down. The sparrow is a bird. "Excuse me," said the sparrow. "Did you lose a button? I found one." "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button has 2 holes. My button had 4 holes." Toad put that button in his pocket. Seems like Toad's keeping all these buttons. We'll have to see what he does with them. They went back to the woods and looked in the dark paths. "Here is your button," said Frog. "That is not my button," cried Toad. "That button is small. My button was big." Toad put the small button in his pocket. Now he has 3 buttons in his pocket. I wonder if they'll find him. A raccoon came out from behind a tree. "I heard that you're looking for a button," he said. "Here's one that I just found." "Oh, that is not my button," wailed Toad. "That button is square and my button was round." Toad put the square button in his pocket. Now he has 4. I wonder if he'll find his. Let's see. Frog and Toad went back to the river. They looked for the button in the mud. "Here is your button," said Frog. "Oh, that is not my button," shouted Toad. "That button is thin. My button was thick." They seem to be finding lots of buttons, but not the one they're looking for. Let's see. Toad put that button in his pocket. He was very angry. He jumped up and down and screamed, "This whole world is covered with buttons, and not one of them is mine." Toad ran home and slammed the door. There on the floor, he saw his white, 4-holed, big, round, thick button. "Oh," said Toad, "it was here the whole time. What a lot of trouble I made for Frog." Toad took all the buttons out of his pocket. He took his sewing box down from the shelf, and Toad sewed all the buttons all over his jacket. So he was sewing all the ones that he had stuffed in his pocket. The next day, Toad gave his jacket to Frog. Frog thought it was beautiful. He put it on and jumped for joy. None of the buttons rolled off. Toad had sewed them on very well. That was smart, because he wouldn't want to lose them. At the end of this story, just shows you how Frog and Toad are such good friends. They're always doing things for each other. You're going to get to meet more of Frog and Toad as you finish kindergarten and when you go into first grade. Now, I have a question for you, or a search for you. I have 2 coats. And guess what? One has lost its button. It's missing a gold button. This coat, too, is missing a button. Look at that. I put a pin in there. So this one is missing a brown button. Share with your teacher today where you think Mrs. Johnson should look for her buttons for her coat, just like Frog and Toad looked for their button. Have a great day.